Good morning, everyone. This week's Torah portion has one of the most famous verses that we sing every Shabbat. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael. The Jewish people guarded the day of Shabbat, la'asot et Shabbat, to perform the Shabbat, l'dorotam, for all future generations. Beini u'bein b'nei Yisrael oti l'olam. This is the eternal sign between God and the Jewish people. And we all know that at the Ten Commandments, just a few weeks ago, we received the commandment to keep the day of Shabbat holy. But in the fourth commandment, it says, remember the day of Shabbat. And every time you wish someone a Shabbat Shalom, tomorrow when you call your friends and your family and you say Shabbat Shalom, you're remembering the day of Shabbat. And when you see someone on the street on Shabbat, you don't say good morning, good afternoon. You say Shabbat Shalom if it's a fellow Jew. That is remembering the day of Shabbat to make it holy. But this passage in this week's Torah portion, when it discusses the commandment of Shabbat, takes it a step further. And it says, V'shamru, they guarded it, meaning they kept the Shabbat. La'asot et Shabbat, to perform, to do Shabbat, to make Kiddush, to celebrate, to perform the mitzvot of Shabbat, to make it a holy and sacred day. And then the Torah says, this is the eternal sign between God and the Jewish people. As we know, Echad Ha'am said, more than the Jewish people have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. And the Chafetz Chaim says, what does it mean? This is the eternal sign. So he says, if you go to a store and the shopkeeper's not there, you figure maybe he's out for the day. You come back the next day, you say maybe he went on a vacation. Come back a week later, you say maybe he's not feeling well. But if you come back and you see the sign has been taken down from the shop, then you know that the store is out of business. And therefore, he says, this is the eternal sign of the Jewish people. As long as the Jewish people are keeping Shabbat, as long as the person is honoring Shabbat and celebrating Shabbat, even if they're not keeping all the other mitzvot, they are still in this eternal relationship, this eternal bond, because this is the sign of the connection and the relationship between God and the Jewish people. Rabbi Shlomo Riskin tells a story that was in the 1970s. He was at a dinner in New York, honoring and welcoming the Prime Minister of Israel, Golda Meir, to Washington. And he was sitting a few seats away from Golda. And there were various leaders and dignitaries from the Jewish world who came to welcome her. And during the main course, a few individuals walked over to Golda and said to her, we'd like to present you with a new Haggadah, a new Passover Haggadah. And this was written by Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan, the founder of the Reconstructionist movement. And they explained to her that this is a modern Haggadah. Instead of it talking merely about the exodus from Egypt and the journey to the land of Israel in the desert, he updated it and made it more modern. And he talks about the exodus from Europe, overcoming the Holocaust and surviving the concentration camps and coming to Israel and founding the modern state of Israel. And they presented it to her. And she leafed through the pages, and shockingly, Rabbi Riskin says, she hands the book back to these individuals and say, thank you, but I don't want it. And they were a little astonished that she didn't want to accept it. And they said to her, Madame Prime Minister, why would you not accept it? You're not known to be a particularly religious woman. And Golda Meir said, that's true. I'm not a religious woman, but I do make a Passover Seder every year. And I want my grandchildren to say the same words that my grandparents said at their Seder. I want everyone around my Seder table to be part of eternity. The Jewish people have kept Shabbat for thousands of years. And when you observe Shabbat, when you celebrate Shabbat, when you connect with Shabbat, you are part of the eternal nation who, as the verse says, have an eternal bond. And Shabbat is the sign of that relationship, that connection, that bond with a God that has continued throughout all of the Jewish generations. It's not too early to wish everyone Shabbat Shalom.